Real quick, couple of things. So obviously we just finished our Wednesday practice. Most of you know we made a change at quarterback. And I understand all the speculation and everything that surrounds a move like that. And I can tell you, look, we're desperately trying to win. And sure, in our game today, there are economics and all those other things, but the number one push behind this, and it's a decision I'm making, is to, get a spark offensively. Obviously, it's difficult, and all of us feel like, man, we didn't do well enough. But one of the things we saw when we signed Stidham in the offseason was not only film from preseason games, but regular season games. And, he's a guy that, I'm anxious to see play. And if I didn't feel like he gave us the chance to win, then we wouldn't be making that move. And so the irony is, obviously, is he was in a situation that many would say is very similar, and yet I would say it's somewhat different. But that's kind of where we're at with it. I spent time with Russ this morning, and he's been a pro and obviously disappointed. But, all the work that goes into doing what he does or doing what they do at that position, it's difficult. And it's difficult and challenging. And, there's a part of you, certainly myself as a head coach, that feels like, man, I needed to be better because, now he may need to play, this weekend, next weekend, and then regards to the future, that we haven't had a sit down, and I'm sure we will. Greg and I and George, we speak frequently, but this is about now, and this is about trying to get our 8th win, and we'll go from there. So any questions?
What was Russ not doing that led to this move?
Yeah, look, rather than get into the specifics, because I think that would be unfair today, it's more about what we weren't doing effectively enough offensively. And, when we were getting 2 or 3 turnovers, that's one thing, but ultimately our job is to get the ball in the end zone, and we've got to be more efficient doing that, all of us.
Sean, there are some folks are going to say, you say it's a collective problem, but it looks like Russ is taking the brunt of the blame.
Well, I get that, and yet I can't replace the entire offensive line. I can't bring in 5 new receivers, and if it continues over a period of time, then there'll be another guy here talking to you as well. This is something that, these are difficult decisions, and obviously there's more attention when it's the quarterback who's under contract, but different than maybe, earlier decisions we've made with maybe last year's prior starters. I can just assure you one thing, and honestly, and I've said this to Greg and George a number of times, I'm just interested in winning. And it doesn't matter how. When you do this, for this long a period of time, that's all you're interested in, because there's nothing like it. And then the other side of it, there's nothing like that either. So that's kind of what it is.
Is there risk for you?
Now, there's always risk, but I think as a head coach, you've got to make some tough decisions, and they're not always going to be right. They just aren't. And so you trust your instincts, and you go by, what you feel, and those have been good for me and served me well over the years.
What would you say to those who would suggest that you guys want to avoid injury because the $37 million becomes guaranteed 5th day of new league year?
So what's the question? In other words, I don't
If
have
he
to
plays now and he gets hurt and he doesn't
Yeah,
pass
I
physical, you're
get
on the hook
that,
for
but
$37 million.
then why not last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? I understand the question, and I think at the beginning I said I understand the economics here, but again, if I've got the decision and I said to you, I'm only interested in winning, then, you go back and a lot of times as you prepare for the season and, you hear teams talk about, well, if they win too many games, they're not going to be in a position to select player A or B. And I just think, barring the postseason and you want to rest your players before a playoff game, and I've done that 2 or 3 different times, prior to the playoffs. But we're trying to win them all. Like, we're trying to win every game we're playing, and that's the case this weekend.
I think you've had 10 months with Russell. Is he a player that you feel like, not last 2 games notwithstanding, that you can win at a high level with?
Yeah, listen, absolutely. In other words, his pedigree, his competitiveness, all of those things, but we need a spark. We need something right now, and then we'll handle the long term, when we get there. But we're not there. I mean, we're trying to find a way to get this 8th win, and then if we're able to do that, then obviously we've got another important game next weekend. But that's where we're at right now.
What is it about Jarrett Stidham that gives you that confidence?
Look, he's someone who's got real good poise. He's got real good feet. You see his arm strength, decision making. Take a peek at the 49er game, or take a peek at the Chief game, or just some of those things we saw. And then obviously we get a chance to see him every day against our defense. Those are a number of them.
For him, what is this opportunity?
Jarrett? I think it's significant, and I think, look, he understands it. He came here to compete, and these guys are competitive by nature, and they haven't gotten to this level without that confidence in themselves, and so he's going to want to play well, and that's the trait most of these players at this level in our league have.
John, Mike said yesterday the protection wasn't near good enough on Sunday as you guys go with a new quarterback now. Do you see most of that stuff as fixable as possible?
Well, look, everyone feels, when it's the quarterback, everyone feels a bit responsible, and certain things need to get cleaned up. And so, when you look at that tape, there are a number of things. I said to the team afterwards, there's 7 or 8 specific plays. Any one of those 7 or 8 are different. That the result might be different, but we're not there yet. And I think they're trying. I mean, we're practicing, but the details, all of that stuff matters.
DiNucci's been elevated 3 times. Would you expect that you'd promote him to have another quarterback on the 53?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to you guys before about DiNucci and getting him the 3rd game. Russ will be the 2. My guess is, just knowing our roster on game day, we'll have 2, ready to go. We wouldn't, and I think I'm answering your question. We won't have a 3rd on the field.
Would you change your mind on Russ being the 2 before the end of the week? Or do you think
No, I don't think I'm going to do that. I mean, holy cow. I mean, I can only have one of these with you guys like once a month. I can't have one every other day. I think to get a true evaluation and to see what he can do, I mean, he needs to play. But, I'm hopeful it gives us a spark. I'm hopeful that we do some other things better. And, it's not just going to be on him. The O-line, the receivers, the running backs, those guys are going to have to play well. And that'll be important.
You had said it's on everyone sometimes when it's on the quarterback. because your offense looked different in New Orleans? Were you're trying to mesh two concepts?
No,
or-
look, there was an offense for a long time with Drew.
Right.
But then, he gets injured, and we had Teddy for 5 games, and, it was different, and yet it was still about winning. And then, we had Taysom for a period of time, and then Jameis for a period of time. And so our jobs certainly aren't to be locked into this is it. And then, we're going to be flexible and try to really suit it to the strengths of our players. And so that's, I think that's the first thing that, any good coach tries to do. What are the strengths? What can they do well? Let's ask them to do those things.
Since making the move this morning, how have you seen the team respond to that?
I don't know. I thought we had a good practice today. I thought, the energy was good, and it's an important game.
You
What are
talked
your
about this
thoughts
a
on-
bit, but when you swap quarterbacks, do you also get a more fair assessment of kind of the rest of the offense, what works well, what maybe needs to be?
Maybe to some degree. I think that could be a byproduct, possibly.
Your thoughts on Kareem Jackson moving on to the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I just texted him earlier. Look, obviously, when you have a veteran like that, there's a lot of communication that took place between George and his agent. In fact, I spoke to him before he was claimed, and we were all good to go. And then the one outlier is another team can claim you, and back, I can recall his rookie year, first, second, third years, we had a lot of joint practices with Houston. It was pretty close. They were in the AFC, we were in the NFC, and so I can remember him at nickel and corner, and his family's there. I'm happy for him, and I'm a huge fan of his, a huge fan. So I'm glad it's kind of only fitting. He was a teammate of D'Amico's, and it's I think a good thing for him.
John, do you have an update on Courtland?
He's in protocol. Today it's hard, look, to give you levels. But, it was a good day today, but he's in protocol. And, hopefully each day there's some progress. And yet, man, it happened. I didn't even know when it happened, but obviously it was early. It was on that go ball where, he landed and his head hit the ground. So we'll kind of go day by day, really, and I'll kind of learn it just as you guys are a little bit. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.